They're 112 caps for Wales, 2 British and Irish Lions tours. The Lions ain't that big anyway, but it don't matter. 6 Nations titles, Grand Slams, Rugby World Cup semi-finals. You've done it all, Biggs. Do you feel like you've done it all? When it's all said and done now, your reflections, do you feel like you've done it all? Is there anything you've left out on the chopping table?
Yeah, when you say it like that, it sounds quite good, Jim, but I think you know what it's like, and Goode, you know it's the same. It's always sort of what you didn't do, it always has a little bit of regret. You know what I mean? I was gutted to miss out in 2013 on the tour to Australia after winning the Six Nations.
So was Jim.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know how you feel, Jim. I know how you feel. That was tough, and it was hard not to take that personally. So that was difficult. I would have loved to have been able to sort of been at Saints when they got over the line in the Prem. You know what I mean? That would have been something. I felt like we had some really solid foundations there, loads of really good players. But I think generally, when I look back at it, I think it's hard when when you're in it or properly in it. It's hard to sort of see the wood from the trees a little bit. But I think when I reflect, and off the back of last week, when you look at sort of maybe some of the achievements and some of the matches and trophies and things like that, I think I don't think I would have changed a huge amount, if I'm honest, Jim. Yeah.
You know, you mentioned the Lions in 2013. You mentioned Saints basically won it because you left Biggs. That's what Jim said anyway. He wanted me to say that. I'm joking, of course. That's what we do, though.
That's what we're saying. We've got to keep people grounded on this show.
Yeah. But like internationally, obviously, the honours were pretty regular with Wales, weren't they? Obviously, Grand Slams, Six Nations titles, etc., etc. And everyone can say, "Oh, I would love to have won a World Cup." There's one Northern Hemisphere team that's won a World Cup since the start of the competition, so it's not easy from a Northern Hemisphere perspective to win it. But at club level, obviously, you were great at the Ospreys, Northampton, and then moving over to Toulon as well. You seem to be defined as internationally, right? And this is maybe an Englishman looking from the outside in at the Wales thing. A lot was driven about playing for Wales, but
I agree with you, Andrew. Yeah, I agree with you. I see Biggs, I see Wales. That's what I saw, with all due respect. Yeah.
And ultimately, it's kind of weird because there's me and Jim who won loads of domestic competitions, but won fuck all at international level as well. So we're all polar opposites, right?
I got to be honest with you. I think, like, for me, my spell at the Ospreys was really good. I think, like, when somebody said, like, you have to pick a really special moment, like we beat Leinster in 2010 in the Magners League final. We beat Leinster in 2012 in the same final. And that 2012 final in particular for me was probably up there with one of the best moments of my career, because Leinster, I don't know if you remember, they just absolutely dismantled Ulster in the Heineken Cup final the week before, the Champions Cup final the week before. I remember it came out in the week that they were going to put their party celebrations on hold because they wanted to do the double the week after, etc. And like, when I look through that team now, you got like Carney, Rob Kearney, Darcy, O'Driscoll, Sexton, Redden, McFadden, Jennings, Heaslip, Toner, Leo Cullen, Mike, like all those. Brad Thorne was on the bench. And I suppose to win that day, I think it was 31-30 and knocked over a conversion to win it at the death. And I think when I look back, I think looking at what that team represented, that Leinster team, to go there and win 2 out of 3 years was pretty special. And we always used to make a bit of a joke about it because Brad Thorne had won he was on like the World Cup, State of Origin, Champions Cup, Tri-Nations, etc., etc. And we said, well, he didn't win the fucking Pro 12, boys. I'll show you that. We stopped him winning the Pro 12. So yeah. But I agree. I think probably you look at that sort of 10-year period, 12-year period I played for Wales. We were very lucky to be successful and a real golden age of players and generation. But I'll be honest with you, I think I probably would have swapped probably a certain number of caps or maybe a Six Nations for maybe another maybe a Premiership. I think with Saints at that time, I loved my time at Saints, and I think probably if I had the chance, I may well swap one out or some caps for a Premiership.
Biggs, one thing that sticks out for me, and I had this when I retired and got into this podcasting world, and I'm not drawing comparisons between me and you, but just hear me out on this, was the way you conducted yourself on the pitch. So I was fighting, I was kind of this aggressive kind of player, which I've spoken about before. I do have that in me, but like you listen to the podcast, I'm the polar opposite of what you maybe thought I was. So
you've been shouting at Rob, mate. You've been shouting at Rob all
no, with my eyes. Look, I have now evolved. I've matured. I didn't shout once. I just looked at him through the eyes. But Biggs, you played like that. One thing that sticks out is that you were a fierce warrior. You were a competitor, but you had almost like that Owen Farrell snarl where you were chewing a wasp, and you had a bit of not arrogance, but I suppose you look like you're pissed off a lot of the time because it meant so much to you. Are you like that in your everyday life? Do you have that in you, or is that the warrior that stepped over the line? And if so, if it is in you, like how are you going to deal with that after? Have you thought about these things?
Yeah, do you know what, Jim? That's almost the biggest compliment you can give me, really, is that I was aggressive, confrontational, fighting for everything, almost like horrible and difficult to play against. And with some of you, and with some of your team, might have said. But I just think, like, for me, if someone said, how do you want to be remembered? And this is something I've thought a little bit about. And I thought, like, I would want to be remembered. Yes, you want to be regarded as a winner and being a good player, et cetera, et cetera. But if someone said to me, you could be remembered for having flashes of brilliance and moments of brilliance and skill, et cetera, or someone who fights for every blade of grass on the pitch, whether you're playing in the Magners League or for the Lions or Wales or whatever, and competitive every day in training, really difficult, winning streak in you, like that. Those are all the things that I want people to be. And even sometimes when it stepped over the line, I think even then I'd be like, okay, well, I know that that's not me when I go home and speak to my wife and the kids, or I go and speak to my mates.
You're not allowed to go home.
I'm certainly not the boss in my house, that's for sure. But do you know what I mean? Like I know that's not me, so I know that's only the only reason I was like that, and perhaps sometimes like maybe like why Owen and Johnny Sexton are a little bit framed like that was because they were so desperate to win and hated losing and hated settling for second best, etc., etc. So. Did I get it right all the time, Jim? No, absolutely not. And would there be things which you may change? Quite possibly. But I think when I look back, I think if I hadn't been that person, I would never have achieved what I'd achieved either, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I'll tell you what's interesting, and Jim and I might have a different kind of take on this. Like obviously I'd played against you a little bit and, seen you play and all this stuff, and it is confrontational as a 10, and you're confrontational to your own teammates because you want the best out of every player, right? And it's similar to Owen Farrell kind of thing. But I always used to look at Richard Cockrell, right, who was a similar kind of fierce, driven character, especially when he was coaching. And he'd come in and he'd be the angriest bloke around, wouldn't he? Like, angry little man. And we'd be like, he'd walk in, he'd be shouting at us all, telling us we're all shit. And we'd be like, he's definitely getting absolutely owned at home. Like his missus might have pegged him last night or something, or just like giving him so much stick that he's coming in and taking it out on us. And you just said it then, I'm not like that at home. We all get through, walk through the doors at home. We know that we just have to be different people, right? That's how I am with the podcasting, the live shows and all that. I go home, I just sit there and nod and get owned by about 4 women in my life. But mate, it's different characters, isn't it? On going to work mode and then at home with the family mode.
I think as well, Goody, like the generation that, look, I think we all know that the world, let alone rugby, is very different now to what it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. You know what I mean? And even further for perhaps for you guys. But like the environment that I came into, I had, guys like Mike Phillips, Gethin Jenkins, Adam Jones, out and out winners, and been there, done it, seen the t-shirt, old school sort of thing. And they were the ones who were driving the standards. And I was just trying to catch up to that. And you think of like me, maybe, demanding standards from my own players and having some confrontation with my own players. But like, that's what I was brought up with. That's what I came into a group with, and that was brilliant for me. Like I didn't shirk that 1%. That's what I wanted. That's what I needed. And I was held to account. If my kicking game wasn't up to scratch, Gethin Jenkins be the first one. I mean, from a tight head prop, from a loose head prop, giving me kicking advice, I'm not quite sure I'd take it. But from an out and out winner's point of view and a competitive point of view, he was nothing short of brilliant. And I think for me, that's just sort of set the stall out for me that I wasn't going to have this arm around the shoulder, mollycoddled sort of thing. And clearly times have changed, the game's changed now, but for me, I still think like confrontation in the workplace, that's what it's about, sort of thing. Especially in the game that we play, on the field, in the moment, you know, that's kind of where it's at. So 100% agree. When I'm off the field, or if I'm doing this, or speaking to people at events, or speaking to fans afterwards, I'd like to think I'm very, very different to what you see for 80 minutes on a Saturday afternoon. But I think I'd like to think as well. I think like that's what it should be. You should be somebody different when you step on the whitewash over the white line for 80 minutes on a Saturday compared to what you are at home.
So we can be confrontational with Rob. There, Biggs has said it, and Biggs is the modern man.
You told Rob.
So I'll keep going, Biggs. I'll take that.
I did also find, you know, sometimes when like maybe when you had crossed the line a little bit and you'd gone a little bit OTT, and then the next week someone said, "Oh, you need to calm down." You just stay nice and calm. And like I found my performance was nowhere near the level. I had to be right on the edge to get a performance out of me. And people were saying, "Oh, we need our 10s to be cool, calm, collective." And like for me, that wasn't the case. If I was sort of rowing my own teammates, rowing with the opposition, rowing with the ref, like rowing with the opposition fans, like for me, that was when I was a much, much better player. But like I said, I think hopefully it always helps when you've had some decent success to back that up, which you know, luckily I was able to in a very good team. So, but yeah, it's a different part of the career now, and I'm looking forward to it. I got loads going on after finishing, and just looking forward to it, to be honest, lads.
I've been doing a bit of digging, lads. So I gave a shout out to our friends at Opta. Shout out Ben and the lads there, because I wanted to know if you boys had ever played against Biggs in his career.
Or if he'd ever played against us, if he remembers us.
Well, it turns out Goode never played against him, but Jim, you did 4 times.
I never played against Biggs.
Nope. Never.
Ospreys Leicester. What year were you at?
You'd gone chasing the coin by that stage, Goody, when I came through, mate.
Wow, okay.
So, Jimmy, you had 4 games.
Yeah, I reckon I played against Biggs when I was at Edinburgh and beat the Ospreys down there.
And do you remember what happened?
I scored a try for us to win the game, and Edinburgh, we got a bumper bonus, and I ran over Dan Biggar from about 30 metres. I might have added that bit on. That's right, is that one game?
In the 80th minute, yep.
Yeah, I scored a try, mate. I remember that. We got a mega bonus off the back of that. It's not about money, but I mean, that's all it was at Edinburgh, because we didn't get rewarded for anything else.
350 Scottish pounds, was it? Was it 350 Scottish pounds?
Mate, it was a few. Genuinely, I'll tell you offline, it was ridiculous. So I think if we finished top 2 or something, it was like a decent percentage of either. I'll tell you offline, but it was a decent bonus. So thank you, Biggs, for that.
You're welcome, Jim. You're welcome.
You were defending at guard. I remember it like it was yesterday. Which other ones, Rob? There would have been a couple of Wales games.
There's 3 Wales games. One in 2013, which was 18-28 to Wales. One in 2014, which was 51-3 to Wales.
Oh, 51-3.
How shit were you, Jim?
Yeah, that was the game that they had Did Scotland have a red card?
Jeff Cross. Yes. Jeffrey Bungle. Up and under, took out Lee Byrne in the air.
No, that wouldn't have been that, would it? 2014. 2014 was where Stuart Hogg got a red card, wasn't it?
Can't remember. So many games.
Yeah. Sweep that one under the carpet.
Leave that one be, Jim, yeah?
And the last one was 2015, Six Nations. It was quite close, this one. It was 23-26 at Murrayfield.
Oh, there you go.
You boys scored right on full time, or nearly on full time, and I think the conversion went over like right on a second to go or something. And I think they blew up with maybe a little bit early. So
of course they did. Of course they did.
Cheated. Yeah.
Well, we got done by the ref again. I mean, so it actually breaks my heart to hear that bit, because I don't remember games that well, but I remember that instant now that you're saying, and that was a story. Anyway, it's not about me; it's about you, Biggs. But that was the story of the Scotland generation of then. So we would have won that game if the referee was different.
100%.
Is what I'm saying. But Biggs, we'll finish off with this, mate. Congrats on a great career.
Cheers, lads.
Appreciate it. To have been part of that journey the last few months.
And thanks for welcoming, like you said, thanks for welcoming me in here as well. It's been awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome, mate.